This video is intended to describe a lightblade talisman named Abundance, which would be the 42nd rendition of 2025. This would be my whimsical stick figure chakra map, which I'll be utilizing quite a bit for various chakra stimulation Q, and has been obviously well utilized in many dissertations at this point. And first, I'll be discussing the primary blade band scaffolding, seen like so, going laterally like here, up the sides, lateral like so, as well as a containment band right here, and the apex band, which vaguely resembles a figure 8 to be the guiding pathway of recirculating the energy in a very efficient contained circuit. Starting off with the transmutation ratio seen right here, consisting of both hematite and smoky quartz in ignition sequence, like so, laterally, up the side, laterally right here as well, and down this side, to be its own transmutation quadrant. So the excess energy of this entire closed loop circuit is running through this sequence before it completes its entire ignition overlap, quite simply. And the hematite is a very fantastic iron-based mineral that grounds all excessive stray rail energies through the root chakra, through the earth stars, and into the earth meridian matrix for reprocessing, in tandem with smoky quartz providing the same energetic stimulation function to provide further composting of taking all excessive stray rail energies and firmly grounding them through the root into the earth stars and into the earth meridian matrix for reprocessing. So the two in tandem is what can be considered the transmutation ratio to work as a very effective etheric dialysis scaffolding to ensure the excess energy of this entire device as well is being firmly grounded into the earth to encourage tangibility, as well as having the strong bypass resonance of tapping into the earth plane meridian matrix also provides a very excellent way to discharge any stored stagnant energy to encourage transmutation negativity into positivity by reprocessing the earth very quickly. That'd be highly discouraging for any external, internal negativity to be stored in the field with this talisman operational. So that's why this makes for a great foundational contingency discussion right here to, of course, encourage the rapid grounding of this entire highly exotic crystalline range to encourage the magic becoming real, as well as a contingency in the aspect to ensure it's like a surge protector to rapidly discharge the energy through the system into the earth for reprocessing. Hence, I always just start these dissertations with the transmutation ratio to be a very good foundational preface for the rest of the construct's very exotic crystalline range, particularly in light of number 42 being a rather ambitious exotic variant of the tried and true abundance platform at this point in a talisman format. Then up top right here, the apex band, where the necklace shall be installed right here, is that of clear quartz to be a neutral accelerant of the energy, as well as a very neutral ambient frequency amplifier, which basically means it's very neutral in vibration to have it effectively be consciousness-assisted technology of the impulses and wielding of the energy of the wielder to charge the entire closed-loop circuit to be very much in resonance to apply it like magic. From the clear quartz, going into the lapis lazuli, a fantastic blue ray, indigo ray crystal of antiquity that is that of the 5th and 6th chakra stimulation of the wind elemental spectrum, as well as quite famous in ancient Egyptian magical utilization, and is very much a powerful wind elemental frequency of past life recall, as well as sovereign knowledge of one's truth in that capacity, which makes for a very applicable regal recall of one's various magical gifts to be put into application in this modern timeline for this purpose. So lapis, of course, is a favorite of millions for thousands of years for a very good reason, and that's why it's been represented here as a very empowering, sovereign, I guess you could say, agent of one's truth to enhance their effectivity in service to creation, to put it in a nutshell. Then this would be the tried and true abundance ratio seen right here, which I will actually be best over here. This right here is golden healer quartz, which is a gold white light high heart source attunement frequency, which makes for an excellent subcapacitation of the terrestrial green ray concentration. To have a gold-white light celestial source attunement is very self-evidently advantageous for the spiritual adept, and also works as a great celestial stimulant of gold-white light etheric energy into a more terrestrial transference of the heavy green ray concentration that makes up the abundance platform at this point. Going into emerald, the classic green ray crystal of abundance that's quite deified and notarized in humanity as a true stone of precious abundance. And royal utilization, hence it's quite literally a crystal all mortals have heard of, because it indeed is a true precious legendary stone. Emerald, being at 8.5 or so, and out of 10 the hardness scale, has a very dense atomical structure. It makes it very, very vivid and strong for the heart chakra's ideal configuration. In tandem with rutilated quartz, to work as a massive supercharger of the ignition sequence, which dramatically intensifies ignition going into peridot. Peridot is a fantastic earth elemental, 3rd and 4th chakra stimulant, which I denote to be effectively the crystalline equivalent to chlorophyll. How indeed all this is possible. So it's very advantageous in resonance with the emerald, be a great expansive growth frequency that is very, very abundant. Then going into golden healer quartz once again be the celestial gold-white light source attunement, which is quite critical for a very successful, ambitious vibrational engineering endeavor. Then going into moss green agate. Moss green agate is a green ray water elemental stabilization agent of the heart chakra. Unparalleled mineral kingdom for its capacity to stabilize the heart chakra, so it's quite the important efficiency node right here, with the massive source expansion of the green ray in tandem of the heart chakra's capacity. This moss green agate is installed here to be the stabilization of the entire frequency pitch of, quite simply, holding a stabilized embodiment of that frequency of the massive expansion of the emerald, the peridot, as well as the intensification and the gold-white light source attunement to effectively work as a new earth portal to comfortably stabilize the entirety of the exotically high range abundance ratio to encourage stable, tangible quantum projection manifestations. So that would go on like so before it grounds back into the transmutation ratio to work as the ground circuit of this entire closed-loop device. And that would just be the blade banding. Now I will get into the exotic blade facing scene right here that's quite vast and quite potent. Starting off right here would be Larimar, which is a very lovely blue ray crystal that's quite in vogue these days for being a very fantastic 5th and 6th chakra stimulant, embodying the paradoxical energies of water and fire, which makes for a very soothing, empowering frequency, which is very, very advantageous in a closed-loop circuit, particularly when it's a very high-yield dharmic accelerant variation. It works as a great soothing oasis of calm contingency to, God willing, mitigate the timeline whiplashes with such an ambitious little construct seen right here, which will make more sense as I continue on. Starting off with fulgurite, seen right here. This actually is petrified lightning. This is lightning striking sand. Hence my little joke I had about the contingency of the blue ray to calm down this sequence will be quite relevant. Fulgurite is a very powerful resonance to lightning that literally has melted this sand to become its own crystal. So fulgurite is a very powerful full light body activator with lightning force and was utilized by shamans of antiquity to resonate with the frequency to intensify their prayers, their magic, or their medicine, depending on the locality of the reference of wielding of magic, if you would. So it has a very powerful ancient shamanic amplification ingrainment in the morphic field of its utilization that's quite powerful. And in a closed-loop reactive circuit, it makes for a very, very vibrant manifestation intensification by augmenting one's projections or their thoughts or their intentions, quite dramatically so. Literally the power of lightning. So I guess I'll discuss this before I go further in the blade facing, is that all these other individual crystals not part of the ignition sequence have been terminated to the primary wire, which is copper, brass, and silver spooled together to serve as the main vein for the crystalline organs of this crystalline entity to be a way to, of course, transfer the energy between all the individual crystals in a closed-loop reactive circuit to generate significant vibrational compound interest for this entirety of this 40-second rendition. So, literally, the power of lightning has been strapped to this closed-loop circuit, which is quite ambitious. And next, I'll discuss a very, very further ambitious. This side of the talisman is quite spicy, to put it lightly. So this right here would be Libyan gold tektite, which is a gold ray crystal utilized by the pharaohs of antiquity. The Magi god kings would incorporate this particular gold ray crystal as a scarab beetle in their Magi breastplates. The god kings of antiquity, powerhouse magical superconductors they would wear when they're in regalia, which has a very, very powerful solar plexus sacrum stimulation, yet so of course makes it a cardinal fire energy, yet also works as a very powerful full light body illumination frequency, which puts it in the realm of being a tremendously potent dharmic accelerant to manifest one's dharmic blueprint into physicality very quickly. Hence, it's a very, very potent, powerful sovereign crystal of one's highest gifts and creativity manifest on the earth plane. And when you combine that with the infamous moldavite, which is quite the famous green ray crystal of magic in this timeline, it is quite the powerhouse combination. So moldavite is a crystal that's quite famous these days for various social media platforms saying how this crystal has ruined people's lives, because moldavite's intensive green ray heart chakra source connection is a very volatile, swift alignment to one's dharmic alignment very quickly of internal external growth, which is very, very powerful. And so this is a stone not to be trifled with and to be wielded with great respect. Hence, it's been employed with many contingencies to get the most out of it while mitigating, God willing, as always, the timeline whiplashes of one's false self matrix being eroded very quickly and expedite the process. Because indeed, it's got a bad rap from social media platforms due to the fact that it's very, very taxing on one's false self matrix, holding up a worldview of not their divine aligned self. So for the true spiritual aspirant, this is great talisman of rapid transformation of indeed what they were born to do. But if people are not prepared to give up their false self matrix of what they thought they were, not who they really are, it's quite taxing on them. But for the true adept, it's a very welcome frequency to swiftly expedite the process of one's dharmic manifestation. And of course, it's a great stone of synchronicity, magic, and one's highest obvious third-dimensional path made manifest as the quintessential dharmic accelerant. Then above that is a very special stone right here called Perselli Bluestone, which actually is exactly the stone that Stonehenge was hewn out of. So a very fun fact about this particular crystal is that the location where the Stonehenge monuments were quarried from is actually 400 miles away from the site where it was erected. So why that's very cool, no matter how you slice it, when it comes to lore, legend, or subjective history, the fact that this particular stone was utilized due to its piezoelectric powerful multidimensional properties and was transported with several time blocks 400 miles away over rough terrain that modern archaeology can't coherently explain how it was done, obviously means the vibrational engineers of antiquity thought the juice was worth the squeeze. So that's why that's a very, very fun fact, is that the pieces of what was exactly used in Stonehenge is incorporated in the operating system of this very ambitious talisman. So that's a very fun fact. On this side over here would be chaurite. This purple ray crystal right here is a very fantastic wind elemental, obviously based on its violet connotations, of the 6th, 7th, 8th non-physical chakras, yet it has inclusions of dendritic and calcite, which actually by itself completes the sequence to firmly ground the high-frequency wind energy through the Earth stars to encourage making the magic real, as well as be a fantastic divine guidance talisman. So I consider this a fantastic violet ray dharmic accelerant in its own right that is very effective for purifying negativity and, of course, keeping one aligned with their divine soul star activation in the Earth star to encourage the full tangible manifestation of one's highest pointed path of why they're here. Very fun fact, and it probably is my favorite violet ray crystal based on its full encompassing utilitarian effect. Then above that is a true master healer I employ quite frequently for a very utilitarian purpose as well, of seraphinite. This green ray crystal is named after the seraphim archangels, and it is a quintessential master healer that stimulates the entire light body from bottom to top, and works very diligently but yet very gently to dismantle patterns of dis-ease found in the anatomical structure or the chakric nodes. So it is truly a very powerful, amazing healing crystal. I have had to say is probably one of my top 5 due to its encompassing healing potency and seraphic angelic connection made manifest. Then right here would be sunstone. Sunstone's been well employed in all of the abundance constructs for a very distinct purpose. So the aspect of the high green ray yin intake of the heart chakra can be balanced out by the yang output of the sunstone being a fantastic solar plexus and sacrum stimulant. So in the aspect of enthusiasm, feeling great, feeling empowered, feeling sovereign is very much encapsulated by sunstone. So of course, in the aspect here is that when one feels encouraged and good with their actions, and they feel, of course, very positive about them, naturally, their projection vibration goes out to the quantum field, and what they project out comes back as full circle manifestation. To encourage the output to the intake of the high yield abundance construct would be the enthusiasm and the sovereign leadership capacities of empowerment to fulfill the Dharmic blueprint. So that'd be the entire of the blade face besides the selenites and the kyanites, which I will save for last intentionally. Next, we'll be getting into the very exotic extensive hood. Speaking of hood, I'll discuss this before I discuss the individual components down here. So this, once this video is installed, this green leather will be installed as a hood of sorts for a very distinct purpose, far more than aesthetic. So the aspect of the green leather also works as another further color therapy augmentation through the entire construct of being a green ray, heart chakra stimulant, obviously. But where it truly shines for functionality is also working as an insulation. So the entirety of this exotic range of crystals seen here yet to be mentioned actually has less energy leakages, so the energy of this entire sequence is more encouraged to go through the primary blade band as well as the apex band for further efficient transference of energy to once again mitigate stray energy leakages as much as possible, as well as a way to ensure that all these organs of this crystalline entity are well protected as they're being wielded by the recipient either in the pocket or worn in the chest. We shall see when the time comes. And of course, last but maybe least, it does make a very nice aesthetic completion function once it's installed correctly to look like a more further completed construct. So that'd be the green leather hood. Now I'll be discussing the extremely exotic composition of this rendition that is found where the hood shall be. So right here, I have to clear my throat after that one. Right here shall be a pink ray crystal named kunzite, which is a very high lithium bearing love shine frequency emanation of divine love, but a very soothing manner. Lithium, of course, is very, very soothing for the entire emotional, energetic nervous system body. So even a small dose of closed-up reactive circuit goes a very long way. Then right here is another celestial born crystal of black tektite. Black tektite is a fantastic product of nickel meteorite impacting sand, carrying that celestial entry into Earth, essentially becoming a heaven to Earth frequency bridge gap in a black ray crystal. So that with that meteoric impact, it makes for a very fantastic cosmic high vibrational threshold increased frequency, yet it's a black ray crystal, which luckily stimulates the Earth stars for a very nice raising of vibrations from a very ground up perspective, for a foundational raising of vibrations, which is very advantageous for the entire threshold of the auric field from, once again, a foundational raising of vibration, which is very advantageous for the entirety of this very ambitious construct. To have a nice raising of vibration from the tangible scaffolding goes a very long way. Then right here is a very, very, very special crystal named zincite. in the yellow-orange variety, quite rare these days, but luckily the Will of the Force has a way of providing me what I need for these ambitious constructs. Zincite is perhaps the most powerful lower 3 chakra activator with nearly hurricane force of one's intention, their creativity, and the root chakra being blasted open at very, very high threshold, which is ridiculously overpowering, to put it lightly. You can kind of think of the energy of one of those very machismo, ridiculous 80s wrestlers by itself, but obviously being well integrated into a comprehensive operating system goes a long way for dramatic, ridiculous empowerment of that lower 3 chakra scaffolding to, of course, have the encouragement and the will to fulfill the dharmic template in that regard. Hence, it's a very, very powerful stone of creation, that capacity. And that's why I make the joke about the 80s wrestlers, because it almost has that, oh yeah, like really intense vibration by itself, which is like Moldavite. I utilize very sparingly and with great amount of contingencies in mind to get the most out of it without having a dramatic imbalance, because it is very, very, very volatile by itself and very powerful, but in the right application, it can be harnessed to and leveraged to the highest capacity. And speaking of perfect contingency for the zincite would be the induction of the tanzanite right here. This blue-ray indigo crystal is a very fantastic 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th chakra stimulant, and quite simply the most impeccable heart-mind coherence engager in the mineral kingdom. So in the aspect of the heart-mind impeccable coherence for spiritual adept, I consider to be quite essential to, of course, be in touch with the original internet of the Akashic records. The heart has quantum capacity to access, while the mind has naturally its limitations. This encourages the knowing of the heart to be conscious to the self. So that's a very incredible window mental frequency right there that, like I said, makes for a great contingency for the zincite to be a quintessential massive explosive activation lower 3, while the 4th up is very well covered in tandem with this tanzanite. Then right here is a very special red ray crystal, pretty rare, called Bixbyte, which is a red beryl, which means it has an 8.5 out of 10, the hardness scale, much like emerald, seen right here, and makes for a very fantastic, more of a slightly loving, more soothing variant of classic ruby, which can be more volatile but innately. So that makes for a very special feature right there. Then right here will be fire agate, which is a stabilization of the lower 3 chakras of solar plexus, sacrum, and the root chakra, which further encourages the most stable fire elemental frequency in the mineral kingdom. Then right here will be amber, which makes for a fantastic transmutation agent in its own right of actually petrified primordial tree sap, which is not technically a mineral, but it has been praised as a talisman, crystalline talisman, if you would, to transmute negativity into positivity. And that would be the entirety of the complexive engine. Okay, so at the very apex of the core right here will be a very special crystal as well named cinnabar, which is a mercury sulfide, which is the very, very powerful dharmic accelerant as well, and a alchemical stimulant in a lot of ways. So the cinnabar is very much a denoted crystal of mercury based to be the sorcerer wizard archetype to rapidly raise vibrations and melt limitations very quickly. So it's definitely a very powerful crystal of theurgy or quantum matter alteration. So this right here has a very powerful root chakra sacrum stimulation. Thank goodness for the lower 3 activation for this guy, for it has a very intensive, unique stimulation to the 3rd eye to put one's clairvoyance in a very high level, as well as burn through stagnant energy. So this crystal as well can be the quintessential alchemical crucible accelerant in that capacity as well, to put one in touch with their innate magic very distinctly. Particularly in tandem with the lapis, to, of course, encourage one's sovereign magical perception, which is very, very much a hallmark of the embodiment of the true self, I would say, of the cities, or the psychic gifts as they call them. And that would be most of that. Okay, so, and the wooden core itself actually is hewn from oak, which is from my good buddy back here in my backyard, Mount Shasta, California, which makes for a very nice foundational scaffolding for the entire device to be a carbon-based, dense grain wood, which encourages a very strengthened frequency. Hence, it's been, of course, deified by histories and legend at this point of druids, kings, gods, you name it. It has quite the lore attached to it, which I will omit to condense this video as much as possible. But in pragmatic terms, the dense atomical grain gives a very strong frequency platform for the entire construct of oak, and of course is very praised and sacred to druids more particularly, hence this talisman will be going to the UK. Very fun fact. Not to mention the Priscilla bluestone in tandem. Very, very special druidic tones right there. And so last but not least, I was saving, is the employment of these white crystals seen right here, which were standard to the wooden core, named selenite. So selenite by itself is a very fantastic 6th, 7th, 8th non-physical chakra restoring back to one's godhead, which makes for a very powerful conscious self, higher self, two-way connection to clear off debris of stagnancies that have been impeding one's higher perception and divine guidance. So by itself, it makes truly a very applicable frequency for the true spiritual adept. And with that high frequency induction, it works to purify and burn off stagnant energies from top to bottom, to of course encourage any stagnant energies to be dispersed through divine transmutation, which is already a fantastic master healer capacity right there. But where it truly shines in this video, for the 26 or so minutes I've been discussing all these various crystals running in a circuit, it provides this particular frequency sequence to the entire collective. It can take this entire closed loop circuit crystalline collective, it can purify all of these crystals, it can amplify or intensify, and perhaps most importantly, it can actually harmonize and bring equilibrium to the entire crystalline collection. So which is very, very advantageous when you break down that triumphant trifecta of amplification, purification, and harmonization for this entire closed collective circuit goes a very long way for a truly advantageous spirit tool. And affixed to the selenites are the 4 spectrums of kyanite, which have their own very intensive purpose of black kyanite, orange kyanite, green kyanite, and blue kyanite. So I will be moving my pen whimsically fast to do my best to illustrate its rapid transference ratios. So the aspect of the kyanites are the most rapid transfers in the various spectrums, the mineral kingdom possible, with black kyanite being the most absolute rapid grounder of energy into the earth as absolutely quick as possible, which works like a surge protector in that regard, as well as a tangibility enhancer. To rapidly take this entire crystalline pitch group while being worn or in the pocket, for example, and rapidly dispersing it into the earth absolutely as quick as possible is a keynote of actually making it real, which is the root word of magic. So the aspect of the black kyanite rapidly disperses energy like a surge protector, like I mentioned. Also, it's like another layer of etheric Teflon to ensure that any negativity, stagnant energies that be internal or external would be very discouraged from maintaining the auric field as it's rapidly grounding of the earth at a very quick rate to rapidly reroute and buffer the entire energy pitch. In tandem with orange kyanite, to raise the creativity, sacrum capacity to the highest level, to bridge past any patterns of creative blocks, for example. Then going into green kyanite, the most rapid transfer of the heart chakra capacity between oneself, one creator, of course, relationships, you name it in that regard. Blue kyanite to be the quintessential third eye stimulant to rapidly bridge past patterns of limitation between the left and right hemispheres to encourage whole brain coherent thinking, which would be what they consider the awakened third eye. And what makes that very relevant too is with the 4 spectrums of kyanite makes the transferability of the energy being worn between 2 different parties, basically bridge past energy blockage gaps at a very quick rate, which encourages rapid equilibrium resonance in a very, very dynamic way. So that would be the entirety of the crystalline collection of the ambitious 42 mentioned. As a capstone summary, of course, it's a proper abundant spectrum entry with many different various supportive features that effectively works as a full light body activator from top to bottom with many different facets, and is a very, very high yield variant. Actually, it's perhaps one of the most powerful renditions of the Abundance platform for how small it is, which was as small as I could possibly make it for such a very high yield rendition, basically. To be relatively clandestine, that could perhaps be concealed under a shirt or at least worn in a pocket with the pouch provided, and to be a very, very triumphant number 42. Well, that'll be it. 1,000 blessings, and may the force be with us all.